Hello, I'm Dragonkeeper19600, and this is my fourth attempt to make this review. This episode has fragged my brain a little, so if I say something that doesn't make sense or doesn't connect very well, I apologize. Uh, oh boy, the mountain. This episode sort of, I feel like it's deep, and I feel like it's trying really hard to be deep, and I feel like in trying so hard to be deep, it's kind of turned some people away from it. Like, it's getting generally high ratings, and I do. I really like this episode. But I feel like my like of it is being stymied by the fact that I'm trying to figure out what the hell I just witnessed. Which is good, because it's a Lemongrab episode, so it's, it's supposed to be weird. It's supposed to be like that. Okay, let's start from the top. I've been looking forward to this episode for months, and I feel like there was more build-up for this episode for me personally than even for Betty, which, was a huge deal, like on Tumblr, like they called it the Betty-pocalypse, like they photoshopped Betty onto everything, and everybody switched their icons to Betty, like Betty, Betty, Betty. No, that was me for the mountain, except it was all inside. It was made up of heavy breathing and maniacal laughing when no one was watching. So I was really looking forward to this one, because Lemongrab's my favorite character, and I was really looking forward to seeing what happened to him after Lemon Hope. Those questions were answered in this episode in a very strange way, as befitting of Lemongrab. So yes, I feel like we're recovering back from the days when Lemongrab was not a one note, but a straight up bad guy, and getting back to where he's a more complex character, which I like, because as like a lot of people, I felt really skivvy about Lemongrab being turned into like an evil dictator. Like, it made sense in a way for the character, but yeah, I like having a Lemongrab that you can sympathize with. So that was nice. Let me start off with talking about Lemongrab in this episode. He was adorable. I mean, Lemongrab's usually cute in some way, even at his most grotesque. There's something like kind of, oh, you dork, about him, Like, even when he's scary, it's not scary in a traditional horror way. It's scary in a, kind of like he's, Like, the noise that Lemongrab most frequently makes is a noise you also make to describe exactly how he makes you feel. Just, like, so Lemongrab is never 100% anything. He's never 100% scary. He's never 100% cute. He's never 100% pathetic. It's always swings between those things, and it'll like go towards one extreme but never go towards another. Lemongrab in this episode was mostly a dork, and I feel like he's kind of, actually what I noticed is that here he seemed much mellower than he's ever been. And like, usually in previous episodes when Lemongrab is mellow and not screaming, that's when he's happy. But in this it was more because that he was depressed, like, especially in the beginning. Later you could argue it's because he's happy or at peace with himself, but earlier on it's like he's not screaming as much. He doesn't seem to have the same energy he used to, like that bombastic energy. It's like it's dialed back, and it's not something he's consciously doing. It's just like he can't bring himself to, be himself anymore. Yeah, the way he was acting, like when he's walking through the cave and he's like, I'm becoming stressed, and like when he's constantly like doing this gesture, and like I laughed pretty hard at the bit where he's like, when he's first leaving his castle to go to the Mountain of Matthew, and he like pushes open the doors and goes bye, and then rides off. Like, he doesn't tell anybody where he's going or anything. It's just bye. So yes. And I was sort of wondering what sort of person Lemongrab would be, if he would be amnesiac, if he'd be, if he'd, like, swing wildly, if he'd have multiple personality disorder. He seems to be one person. I'm not sure which personality is the dominant one. I think it's Lemon Black, the first one, and that Lemon White has sort of, kind of faded into the ether. I mean, we'll get a definite answer on that later. But he doesn't seem to be amnesiac, because he recognizes Lemon Hope, and he, like, the three mirrors in the Mountain of Matthew that you look into, the one on the far left is desire. It's what you want most. The Mirror of Erised. The one in the middle is what you fear. And the one on the right is what you regret. And the things that he feared, regret, and even the thing he wanted seem to relate to, like, what he knew in his previous lives. So it's not like he completely forgot it. and it seemed to be things that only Lemon Black feared. Like the middle one, the fear one, was Lemon Hope replacing Lemongrab and becoming the beloved ruler, and judging him to be unacceptable. All things which Lemon Black was shown to, like, it was implied that he hated about Lemon Hope and Too Old. Like, he kept him locked in a room by himself, and he was absolutely furious when Princess Bubblegum tried to take him away. He's worried that this kid is everything that he wants to be, and he's being replaced is something he was worried about. Something that Lemon White never even thought about. At least I don't think so. Maybe he did. I don't know. So, yeah. I wish we could have gotten a definite answer on that, but it's Jesse Moynihan. He doesn't like giving definite answers on anything. The way the earldom was run was pretty nice. It was productive. Everybody seemed happy. It was clean. And I noticed that there's like flowering plants growing everywhere, and that there's actually houses outside the city walls, which is weird because they're not there at the end of Lemon Hope. I guess they must have gotten destroyed and whatever caused the Candy Kingdom to be vacated. But yeah, so it's like you can live outside the earldom, like the wall, if you want, which is something that I know was not allowed around Lemon Hope. So, yeah, some people have said, like, it still looks like a dictatorship. It's like, yeah, but Candy Kingdom's kind of a dictatorship too, and it's kind of agreed that that's a nice place to live, or at least relatively nice. And, if the people are happy and, it's going smoothly, then really, what reason is there to operate any other way? I mean, it's working. I especially I was kind of worried this episode would tone down how weird the lemons are, but it's not the focus, but you could still they're nutty people still, and it's great. I like when he says lights out and they all just drop where they are. They don't even put anything away. They just leave the machine that they're on running, and then yeah, and I also what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I like how they just seem to be everywhere. They don't have beds; they just drop wherever they are. And when that hole that he knocks in the ceiling appears, a lemon kid crawls out of it. It's actually a kid that I remember from All Your Fault. So yeah. So about the regret thing, Lemongrab does seem to be taking measures to not be like himself. I don't know if his new morality is from being fused from Lemon White or Lemongrab 2 or whatever you want to call him, but one thing that occurred to me is when they're sitting at dinner and they take one bite and then they're done. I feel like he's on a diet. Is he's actively trying not to get fat again? That's the interpretation I had. So maybe he fears that he'll become that again, but that wasn't on his fear thing, so maybe not. Let's talk about the Mountain of Matthew itself, because I'm not sure what I was expecting. I was expecting, because they talked about it being a spiritual awakening, and it turned out to not really be that. It actually turned out to be more of a trap, at least the way I read it. So this entity, Matthew, lives in this mountain, and people go and they face their ego and they see the side of themselves they don't like. And then Matthew offers them a chance to give up their ego by merging with him. And as more people merge with him, he gets more powerful, and finally a day will come where after Ragnarok, I guess, or whatever, he'll rise up from the ashes and remake the world, and a big, full of mumbo-jumbo, third impact, whatever. So yeah, it's a lot of people on Tumblr have been talking. They've been comparing it to a cult, and when they get up to him, Finn and Lemongrab are both wearing very cultish-looking white robes. So it's give up your worldly possessions, give up yourself. What it kind of reminded me of, actually, and it was a more malicious portrayal, I guess, of the fundamental thing of Buddhism, where you have to give up all desire and escape the reincarnation cycle in order to achieve enlightenment, and the self is a delusion that only leads to suffering, and all that biz. So which is 2 Buddhist references that have been made this season. Weird. At least 2. I don't know what philosophy class Jesse Moynihan has taken, but apparently he's taken it to heart. Also, on Lemongrab's ceiling, he has a mural of the Mountain of Matthew on it, all the steps, in a Bayeux tapestry looking kind of way, it sees the knight facing the guy who blocks the entrance at first, and It sees the guy with the 3 mirrors, and he chooses one, and then it sees the guy with a smaller version of himself, and then the guy talking to Matthew. Like, all that is on his ceiling already. Why is it on his ceiling? I don't know. And, that's weird. And, I do like, okay, first of all, I like the guy outside who looks like Matthew, but, has a different voice, personality. I like how he, like, blocks people from entering who don't have emotional baggage, because if you face yourself and are okay with what you see, you won't join with Matthew, so you have no business there. And, like, the way he said Finn, like, you got major beeswax, that was a little sinister. Also, both Matthew and the other guy are made out of rocks and dust, and he said something about, like, the meat bodies who come here give up their form and return to their original essence. So it's like ashes to ashes, dust to dust. From dust we are made, into dust we shall return, etc. So, yeah, it's basically just revert. It actually kind of reminds me of Thomas Hardy. He's this writer. He wrote Test of the D'Urbervilles, kind of famous, maybe you've heard of it. He was a pretty depressing writer, and he wrote a lot of stuff of, like, life is pain, you know, what that I could be unborn. So it kind of reminds me of that, of, like, it's not just that you die, it's that you revert back to what you were before you ever existed in any form. Like, even before you existed as an embryo, even. Or even before your grandparents existed. Like, you know, back to the origin or whatever. Another creepy thing is that the people who emerge with Matthew apparently really, like, when they faced the mirror, so to speak, they really hated what they saw, because they, like, were, like, you know, crying in pain and anger when they were freed, and they, like, one guy just can't take it for 2 seconds, and he jumps off the edge. I don't know if you noticed that. It's pretty hard to miss, but, like, he committed suicide right there in front of everybody, because he just could not stand being himself. And, when they all jump Lemongrab for breaking them out, so yeah, let's get into the symbolism of this episode, because there was a lot of it. First of all, the opening thing with, Finn and Jake, watching the stars. They're waiting for, like, this constellation of the 2 guys high-fiving. And, when it happens, like, this is something that, I don't know if they said 1,000 years, but it doesn't happen very often. And, when it happens, Jake misses it, and Finn says, he missed it. It was kind of disappointing. And Jake goes, oh, okay. Like, it wasn't a big deal. Like, so I feel like that's kind of the thing, like, what Matthew promises, kind of like ultimate reality, you know, big freedom from all things, big promising things. And when you get there, it's kind of like, eh. And Lemongrab says later about the infinite staircase leading up, the infinite staircase of the ziggurat, which is a kind of pyramid with visible steps on the side. Visible staircase leading up to the head, and infinite staircases are unacceptable. It's basically his way of saying that the endless buildup is not worth the reward. So, there's that. I also like that, first of all, I like that Lemon John was mentioned in this episode, because he deserves to be remembered. He died for your sins! And Lemongrab says, this is me. Which is weird, because, like, maybe it makes up his past. But, like, he destroys Matthew and, like, frees everybody by throwing Lemon John into his mouth. So it's like the ego itself deciding to accept it is what can defeat this promise. And also at the end, when he chews up a bit of the candy and spits into the crack of the ceiling, which what was bothering him in the first place, it's like he used himself to fix his problem, and it's a way of finding peace with himself, which I'm very glad that he was able to do. What this whole episode actually reminds me of is, I mentioned Third Impact earlier, but it does remind me of the end of Evangelion, where Shinji rejects Third Impact, and which is basically a plan for all of humanity to merge into one non-sentient organism. And he decides that rather than humanity putting an end to fear and pain, it'd be better for each person to live their lives as individuals, which I think is what this episode was saying. In a way, it sort of is the direct opposite of the earlier episode this season, Astral Plane, which is like asking questions, what is the sake of living? And this episode seemed to say, well, living is the sake of living. And it's great that Lemongrab was able to figure that out. That's all the time I have. See you next time. This episode had a lot to talk about. So yeah, if you got anything else to say, as usual, say it in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Dragon Keeper 19600, signing off.